Yo, what's going on, yo? I'm JB Hoops, and today I got my mock draft 2.0, just after the draft lottery has been announced. The Magic got the number 1 pick, and I think this year's draft will be really interesting, with some guys going a lot higher than projected, and some potentially slipping a lot further than expected. And now let's get into it with my mock draft 2.0, with picks 1 through 14. So with the number 1 pick in the draft, I have the Orlando Magic selecting Paolo Banchero, the 6'10 freshman out of Duke. Now, they definitely could go with Chet here because Wendell Carter Jr. is a guy who can play the 4 or the 5, but I have them going with Paolo in this instance because I think he can slide into the 4 spot for them and they're going to have an extremely tough young core. Paolo has a dominant build, tight handle, is an excellent shot creator for a guy his size. He's amazing in the mid-range, he can break his defenders down off the bounce. He's an elite finisher at the bucket and a guy who also has a very solid outside shot. I think his shooting ability is better than his percentages show. And in my opinion, he is solidly a top 2 prospect in this class, and right now I have him as the best prospect. I just think out of everyone in this class, Paolo Banchero has the most potential to be a star number 1 option. The main concerns with his game are pretty much all with him on defense. He's definitely not up to the level defensively of guys like Chet, Holmgren and Jabari Smith, but I think for the most part he'll be a competent defender. A lot of his faults are effort related, which can definitely be improved. Paolo Banchero is just an exceptionally well-rounded prospect, so I have the Orlando Magic selecting him at 1. Next up we have the Thunder with pick 2, and I have them selecting Chet Holmgren, the 7'1 center out of Gonzaga. OKC do very well with this pick, probably getting the guy that they wanted the most. Chet is a perfect center for SGA, Josh Giddey and the rest of the young Thunder team. He's super skilled and well-rounded. And then on defense, he's probably one of the best guys in this class. He's versatile, can defend all coverages in the pick and roll. He has a 7'6 wingspan and elite shot blocking instincts, blocking almost 4 shots a game at the college level. And then offensively, he's amazing as well. Great shooting touch, he can stretch the floor, he knocked down 39% of his threes, and he can also dribble and pass a little bit. The main concerns with him obviously are his frame at 7'1 and only 195 pounds. But I don't think it'll be too much of an issue and he should be able to put some muscle on pretty quickly in the league. And I just think he's such an excellent prospect, so I have the Thunder taking him at 2. At 3, I have the Rockets taking Jabari Smith, the 6'10 freshman out of Auburn. I think he can potentially be their franchise guy at the 4 spot. He'll help out a ton defensively and he'll form a pretty tough inside-out combination with Jalen Green and KPJ. His game also fits pretty nicely with Alperen Sengun, who looks to be a long-term piece for the Rockets. He's an excellent 3-point shooter, knocking down 42% of his trays. He's an extremely tough shot maker. The shots he makes are just insane. The fadeaways, pull-ups. Offensively, he's just so tough. And then on defense, he's elite at guarding on the perimeter and moving in space. And he's also a very solid defensive rebounder. The downsides with Jabari Smith are that he does settle for bad shots. And he is extremely stiff with his dribble, so I don't think he really has that superstar number 1 option upside. But as a number 2 to Jalen Green, he's going to be amazing. And when he puts on some muscle and gets more confident with his game, he's going to be an amazing player for the Rockets. That's why I got them taking him at 3. At pick 4, the Kings are up. This was the only team to jump up in the lottery apart from the top 4. So that's pretty surprising and good for the Kings. But they do fall into an unfortunate spot despite being lucky in the lottery. They could definitely go with Jaden Ivey here and probably should because I think he is an amazing prospect. But I doubt they do given they seem so invested in De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell. Which I think is kind of stupid, but it's the Kings. People are going to get mad at me again. But I have them taking Shaedon Sharpe in this draft. I think he can play the 3. He's 6'6 with a 7-foot wingspan. He's a crazy athlete with a strong build. He's super smooth like Paul George, can play on or off the ball. And then he's shown some crazy flashes defensively as well. And then I think he also provides them with his insane shooting ability. It should easily translate to the league with his quick, high and smooth release. This is definitely quite a risky pick for the Kings because he barely played competitive basketball in the last year. But I think he'll impress in the pre-draft process and be taken by the Kings at 4. At 5, I have the Pistons taking Jaden Ivey. This is my favourite pick in the whole lottery. Despite getting pretty terrible luck in the lottery, falling from 1 to 5, the Pistons come out very happy in this scenario. They probably had their sights set on one of the top 3 bigs, but selecting Jaden Ivey is a great outcome considering their lottery misfortune. Jaden Ivey is an elite athlete, he's super quick, has great burst, and can jump out the gym. He's a very intense defender at 6'4", 200 pounds with a 6'10 wingspan, And then offensively, I think he'll be a very good spot-up shooter in the league. But what I just love so much about this is the fact that I think he is the perfect complement to Cade in the backcourt. Ivey will be at his best when he's able to play on and off the ball. So playing with Cade Cunningham will just be an amazing fit. And I really hope Ivey falls to the Pistons at 5. Up at 6 are the Pacers, and I have them going with AJ Griffin, the 6'6 freshman out of Duke. I really like Tyrese Halliburton as their long-term point guard, and I like Isaiah Jackson as their long-term center. I also hope they continue to give Jalen Smith a chance at the 4, so I have them taking another wing despite the fact they took Dorte last year. I think AJ Griffin's a good fit there as well. Dorte can play the 2, AJ at the 3. And I think taking a guy like AJ Griffin who has extremely high upside will be perfect for the Pacers. AJ Griffin is an absolute bucket, has a very polished game, and is one of the best shooters in this class. He shot 45% from 3 this season, which is insane, and I think despite some of the concerns with his game, he has a pretty high floor regardless. But what I like with this pick is there is the extra potential for AJ if you buy into him regaining his athleticism he had prior to all the injuries, and I think he'll be able to reach a whole different level with his self-creation, and it'll also eliminate concerns with his foot speed defensively. AJ Griffin is an excellent prospect, so that's why I have the Pacers selecting him at 6. Now the Blazers did slip in the lottery, but I think a lot of the teams in my scenario that I have for this will come out very happy with how their picks went. The Blazers get Jalen Duren, the 6'11 freshman out of Memphis, but I think he'll help their team dramatically, even with their push to the playoffs, despite being kind of a raw prospect. However, I do think this pick probably depends on what they're planning to do in free agency. If they're going to go after a guy like DeAndre Ayton, because it looks like he might be on the move, then they probably won't pick Duren, or this pick might be involved in a sign and trade. But for now, I have them picking Jalen Duren, a guy who will immediately help their defense and give them some brute strength inside on both ends of the floor. He has a dominant build at 6'11", 250 at only 18 years old. He's one of the youngest guys in this class. He's a crazy athlete, powerful finisher, and then on defense he's an elite shot blocker with a 7'5 wingspan. I also really like his upside offensively. I think he's a great passer, and I think there's some potential for him to develop a jump shot. His mechanics are pretty solid, and I think if he gets enough opportunity, he's going to be a great NBA player, and I love this pick for the Blazers. At 8, I have the Pelicans going with Dyson Daniels, the 6'8 guard out of the G League Ignite. The Pelicans find themselves in an interesting situation. They probably do need a center to pair with Zion long term, because Valanciunas didn't really look too good in the playoffs and kind of got played off the floor. But at 8, I don't think there'll be any centers available that are kind of worth the pick. So I have them taking another elite defensive guard in Dyson Daniels who can play the 1, 2, or 3, has a 6'11 wingspan, and then offensively he's a great playmaker, improving shooter. He shot about 35% over his last 15 games on the G League Ignite Tour, and then with his finishing he can finish with both hands, has an amazing floater, and it's just a really high IQ player with great feel. I'm really high on him, and at 8 I think this will be a great pick for the Pelicans, and I just think he's a winning player, so the Pelicans would be a great situation for him. At 9, the Spurs are up, and I have them going with a Spurs type pick, taking a high upside European player who is super skilled offensively in Nikola Jovic out of Serbia. He's got an all-around offensive package, he's a great spot-up shooter, he has upside as a playmaker and handler, and excellent shot creation potential at his size. Before the lottery, I was a big fan of Jalen Duren to the Spurs, but in this mock draft he's off the board already, and the Spurs seem to have a pretty great young core with DeJounte Murray, Josh Primo, Devin Vassell, and Keldon Johnson. So whilst they probably do need a center for the future, I think Jovic slots in pretty perfectly as a wing for this team, who can offer something a little bit different offensively to help an already very solid defensive team. His defense definitely leaves a lot to be desired, but I think he'll be great in the Spurs system, and it just seems like a Spurs type pick at 9. At 10, I have the Wizards taking Tyty Washington Jr., the 6'3 combo guard out of Kentucky. Now this is probably my least favourite pick in the lottery. I would really hope the Wizards take a swing on a guy like Jaden Hardy, but for now I have them filling a positional need at the point guard with Tyty Washington Jr. He has a great floater and is an elite scorer in the mid-range. He's very well rounded and gives you a bit of everything. He can shoot it from deep, is a very solid playmaker, and then on defense he's solid enough to not get exploited. However, I don't really like this pick. I think the Wizards could use some star upside, which is why I would prefer them taking a swing at a guy like Jaden Hardy. But for now, I have them going with Tyty Washington out of Kentucky. At 11, I have the Knicks taking Johnny Davis, the 6'5" shooting guard out of Wisconsin. The Knicks would probably like a point guard for the future, but I have a lot of faith in Emmanuel Quickley to be their long-term point guard, and I think Johnny Davis is excellent value for them at 11. He's an excellent shot creator, amazing in the mid-range, and then on defense he has a very high motor and is very solid on that end. Johnny Davis can finish at the rim, pull up in the mid-range, and I think he's a better three-point shooter than his 31%. And I really like this pick for the Knicks. It gives them someone I think Tibbs would like a lot, and he fits into their squad nicely, so I really like this pick at 11. At 12, I have the Thunder going with Tari Eason, the 6'8" sophomore out of LSU. In this scenario, the Thunder have an amazing draft, getting Chet with the second pick, and then a versatile forward to round out the team with Tari Eason. They could go with a guy like Jeremy Sohan here, or a wing if there's one they like, but I'm really a fan of Tari Eason here at 12. I think he'd be worth taking a lot higher, so this would be a great pick for the Thunder. He's extremely strong and athletic, one of the best defenders in this class. He's versatile and switchable, and then he has an amazing handle for a guy his size. He kind of has minimal true flaws besides his three-point shooting consistency and his draft age of 21. But for a team like the Thunder, I think he'll be amazing, and if they can get Chet and Tari Eason, they're going to be very good next season. At 13, I probably have a pretty predictable pick, with the Hornets going with Mark Williams, the 7-foot center out of Duke. In my opinion, this is kind of a reach. I don't think getting Mark Williams in the lottery is very good value, but the Hornets do desperately need a defensive anchor at the 5, and Mark Williams would definitely provide that for them. He's a very good athlete, great rebounder, amazing shot blocker with a 7'7" wingspan. He kind of does everything a conventional center would need to do. He'll be a great fit with LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges if they keep him, and all the other guys Charlotte has. And he'll just immediately help them so much with their defense and rebounding. So whilst I don't really like his value at 13, I think this is a good pick for the Hornets. Now for the last lottery pick, we have the Cavs, and I have them selecting Benedict Mathurin, the 6'7" wing out of Arizona. Cavs get a guy who I think perfectly fits their young team. They're definitely looking for a scoring wing in this draft. And whilst Mathurin isn't really a secondary creator they'd probably like, he's an excellent athlete and shooter with the very solid 3-and-D wing potential. Although I don't think he's as good of a defender as most people make him out to be, but I think with a few years he'll eventually be a plus defender. The Cavs could definitely go with a guy like Jaden Hardy or Malachi Branham here, but I would probably mock that more if they're looking to move on from Colin Sexton. But for now I have them going with a more NBA ready shooter and scorer like Ben Mathurin, and that wraps up my lottery mock. There's probably a few surprises in here. I have no Keegan Murray. That's probably a shock to a lot of people. I am just not very high on him at all. I probably have him at around 12 or 13 on my big board, so unfortunately I have him slipping out of the lottery. There's also guys like Jeremy Sohan, Ousmane Dieng, Jaden Hardy, who I think have a chance to be lottery picks, but just in this scenario I don't have them making the lottery. Leave a like if you enjoyed this, comment down below. Probably going to get a lot of hate for the no Keegan Murray and no Kai as usual. But this is my lottery mock draft 2.0. I'll probably have my big board 4.0 coming out in about a week. I'll have a few more videos, so stay tuned for them. Subscribe, turn noties on. Just past 500, that's crazy. Trying to get to 1,000 by the draft. I don't know if it will be possible, but we're pushing for it. Leave a like, subscribe for more. JB Hoops.